really wasn't planning on giving a share on this topic. When I wrote the title Turkey Trouble, I was going to talk about, Chukasaka, if you could make a party, Thanksgiving. As an American, it's different than over here. But then two things happened. One thing happened is someone walked in and said, "Oh, you're talking about if turkeys are kosher?" I said, "Hey, it's a great topic." So I decided to go into that. And second, the COR put on in their sukkah sting about the quail eggs. And I really don't want to get into quail eggs because I just didn't research the quails enough for that. And I'd rather go into the background, because these questions have come up time after time after time in the history of Klal Yisrael, and it's actually fascinating. So I'd like to go through the happens to be the birds is one sugya and the eggs is another sugya. there's a cross in between the two, but they don't always correlate to each other so simply. And but I think it's important to have an understanding of what the issues are from the beginning to the end, and therefore we'll go through a lot of the background, which are 3 points. The first point is the halacha, the actual halacha. What are the simanim? A. B. What role do the simanim play in kashrus? Which is also a big question. Does a siman say it's kosher or treif? It's not so simple. So that's another question. And the third question is how we relate to birds, which we're not so clear on, or we haven't really been eating on a daily basis. So we're going to get into these things one by one. So the first thing we'll do is go through a little bit I'll try to do this briefly. We don't have so much time, and it's one of the most difficult sugyas. As I actually got a lot of my information. There's a Kovetz Yeshua that's put out, and there's a fellow, Naftali Chilwan, that did an unbelievable job bringing down a lot of the background. So he quotes here from the Sefer Eshkol, which is a Rishon. The sugya is in Chulin, and the Samachala from the base. It's not a very long sugya, and most of us don't get to it unless you go through the daf, and then it just takes one day. So, but the Sefer Eshkol says, this is a quote from his Lashon. He says like this: Yesh b'shmuz u'deis acheros, many different opinions. We're grappling in the dark with Dvar Hashem, for the word of Hashem, to understand. Leave it a little open so people know to come in. Just leave it a drop open so people know to come in. So we're grabbing around in the dark. We can't find the truth. That's how difficult the sugya is, to try to figure out what are the simanim of kashrus on the bird and how it applies. The words of the Meiri, also a Rishon. The first thing you have to know, this is his Lashon, the first thing you have to know is that the explanation of this mission and the things that come out of it, muvulvolim b'yad mefarshim. It's confusing in the hands of the mefarshim. This goes back to the Rishonim. And the Divrei Chaim, the sons of Rav, writes in his Chuvas, Sugya Zula fi oimek ka'iyim lo yiradati lo oimka. I didn't reach the end of the depth of this sugya. Shal shachad in one moment halakam. I'm learning this for 40 years. Be'iyon Rav, im kol zeh, even to get involved in the pilpul of it, I need at least a half a year. That's the Divrei Chaim. So just to give you an idea how confusing the sugya is, don't think just walk through it and get it. But I'm going to try to give you a little bit synopsis of what comes out of the Shittas Rishonim. So first we know generally there are 3 basic simanim on a bird, and then there's a 4th siman, which is a little bit, maybe it's not considered a siman, maybe it's just a general rule. I will go through it, and the simanim go like this. Go like this. It says, the first is like this. The Torah counts 24 birds that are not kosher. All the rest of the birds are kosher. That's the first thing you have to know. The Torah lists the birds that are not kosher. Nothing to do with simanim. The Torah takes out and says this bird is not kosher, that bird is not kosher, that bird. The first one being the eagle, the nesher, and it goes down to all of them, and the rest of them are kosher. That's what the Torah says. And the Gemara learns out. Now, when I say 24 birds, it's obviously categories. Like, let's say there's a bat. There are millions of kinds of bats, but it's a category. So, yeah, but there are 24 birds that are not kosher. Now, the Gemara says a nesher, being the first one that's not kosher, has 4 simanim of tumah. The tur, the ovkar, whatever it is, has 4 simanim of tyra. 4 simanim make it tar. Yeah. So you have everything in between. You have birds that have some simanim of tyra, some simanim of tumah, and that's where the confusion gets. But the nesher, the first one counted, has all 4 simanim of tumah. That's how we say that we compared Edom to a nesher, and we compare Klal Yisrael to a tar. They have all 4 simanim of tyra. What are the 4 simanim? 4 simanim like this. Ma nesher miyuchad, that it doesn't have an extra finger. See what that is? A zefek doesn't have a zefek. The eagle doesn't have an extra finger. It doesn't have a zefek, a crop. Ein kurkabani niklaf. The gizzard is not peeled. See what that means also? V'doyrus. And it's v'doyrus v'oichel. And it
literally tramples.
Yeah, it's doyrus. When it eats, it attacks and eats. So we'll see what that means also. Everything has freedom of shat. So, Avkol Kiyotiv Tummy, those are the simanim of tumah. Now, what are these things? We'll just go through it briefly, and we'll focus on the things that are more relevant for our discussion. The first one is the extra finger. We're not going to get into that so much, but the extra finger is, the birds have 3 to 4 fingers, okay? Now, a bird that's doyrus generally, if you put it on a string, 2 fingers will go to one side and 2 fingers will go to the other side. It'll split in the middle. As for a chicken, we all know the 3rd finger, the 4th finger is in the back. It goes out to the back, so it'll actually stand with 3 fingers forward. 3 fingers forward, that is, and 1 going back. So according to some Rishonim, that's called an etzba yiseva. The etzba goes backwards, like it walks a little back. That's one way. You have non-kosher birds that have that too. You have kosher birds that have that, but that's one simon. One simon is etzba yiseva. According to other Rishonim, that's not what it means. According to other Rishonim, etzba yiseva means a little higher up. Sometimes you see the chickens a little higher up from the actual fingers coming out. There's in the back a little thing that comes out in the back.
Spur.
What?
Spur.
Spur. Yeah. So that's called an etzba yiseva, according to some Rishonim. According to some Rishonim, Ram Brown brings something interesting, that there's that's the Ramban. There's another explanation that the middle finger goes out longer. You know, the longer finger. It looks like a little meaty thing that comes out. It's a longer finger that comes out in the middle. That's called an etzba yiseva. These are different pshat. We're not going to get into that, but there's something called extra finger. Either it's the back, or it's higher, or it's going out longer. That's one. A zefek, the zefek we know is towards the bottom of the neck. There's a little sack, and the food goes in there to sort of to get a little softer. And I didn't really have such a good picture. I didn't want to photocopy without permission. But here's the innards of a chicken. Pass it around later when we get to the korkovan. So this goes to the zefek first. It's at the end of the veshet, and then afterwards it goes to the korkovan. Okay, so the zefek is a sack first. Not all birds have a zefek, and the zefek is something which softens it. Okay, so if it has a zefek, that's a siman tyra. If it doesn't have a zefek, it's a siman tumah. The next one is the korkovan. Korkovan is like the stomach. Now the birds don't have teeth. So when they swallow things, they swallow it whole. So it gets softened in the zafek, and then it goes to the korkovan, and it gets ground up over there. And interesting enough, so the korkovan is made, in the inside it has, it's a chicken, it's yellow, it's a little yellow, but it has an inside membrane, which is hard. Actually, it's a little tough, inside membrane, and that grinds it up. And interesting enough, the bird swallows pebbles and all kinds of stuff also when it eats, and that helps the grinding process. So that's the korkovan. Now korkobani niklaf means you peel it off. It peels off. You could peel off that membrane. And here we have a picture of it over here, that peeling it off. Yeah, you can have a big picture. There's one here bigger. So there's the yellow membrane in the middle, and then this meat. Besides the outside of the cooker, there's a little meat there. And this yellow membrane could be peeled off with the finger. You get a picture, you could walk it around, pass it around, but I guess peeled off. Now here the Shulchan Aruch says, when we come back to this later, that, all membranes could be peeled. So the Shulchan Aruch says, it's niklaf biyad v'loy b'sakin. If you need a knife to peel it, that's not called it's niklaf. Niklaf has to be with your hand, you can peel it off. If you have to get a knife from there to peel it, that's not called niklaf. I will revert back to this later, but that's the siman, that's the third siman. We have the finger, we have the zefek, it has a zefek, it has a crop, and then we have the korkavon niklaf, that inners of the korkavon gets peeled. Okay? Now, there's a fourth thing, which is called doris v'yochel. Now, what does doris v'yochel mean? We'll just go through the pshatim in the Rishonim, what they say. What does it mean, the doris? Doris means they attack, they prey, and eat it. So what does that mean? So there's actually 5 different pshatim in the Rishonim. Rashi says it attacks it with his fingers and picks it up, okay, and then eats it. So it swoops down, grabs the rat or whatever it gets with its fingers, picks it up and eats it. That's the first pshat. Rashi brings another pshat. Even if it doesn't pick it up, if it actually holds it down, it lands on the animal and holds it down. Okay, even if it doesn't pick it up, but it holds it down in place when it eats. If you ever see a chicken eat, it doesn't use its hands. It just pop, 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 and eats, right? So these animals hold it with its fingers and eat. So that's the second pshat Rashi. Tais says the third pshat. This we'll have to come back to. This is an important factor here. That it eats mechayim. It eats when it's alive and doesn't wait till it dies. The Rosh, the Ran, the Ramban, Sefer Eshkol, and the Tur, they all bring this pshat. That it eats the animal when it's alive. Okay? There's another pshat that it actually kills it with its fingers. Its fingers actually puts the poison into it. It's like an animal is doris. Like you can find in the Gemara that a lion or something could put his nail in and end up dying from it. So those are 5 different pshatim on doris. Okay, so we have a few different pshatim on extra fingers and doris. We'll come back all to this later. The main issue here is. Oh, there's one other pshat. There's one other pshat from Beino Gershom that it actually catches it in the air. A little bird's flying by, and it grabs it in the air. Okay, it's another pshat. Now, how do you remember the simanim? So the Tashbats gives a simon, a sign to remember the signs, simon to remember the simanim, and it's built in the Arizal. Tzipor, bird, the word tzipor, take the second letter of each one, the tzadik, tzipor, some etzba, tzadik is etzba, finger, the pei is zefek, tzipor, the vav is kurkavan, is doris, is the second vav, vav, doris is the vav, tzipor, the reish is kurkavan, the kurkavan is niklaf. So that's just a symbol to remember, that's tzipor. But Akapanim, those are the 4 simanim that we have on a bird.
Second letter of each word. Right.
Yeah. Now, just to get to the eggs, and I'm not going to get so much into the eggs, but it is relevant for our discussion later. We all know that a kosher egg is tzida yechad kad, tzida yechad chad. One side is round, like chicken eggs. One side is a little round, and one side is pointy. A guy came into the koil a month ago and brought me an egg from Sobeys. It came straight out of the chicken thing, but both ends were pointy. It was one of these extra large eggs, which was like a twin, and both eggs were pointy. I wanted to know if it was allowed to eat them. But the eggs, one end is round and one end is pointy. That's how eggs supposed to look. A non-kosher egg is usually both ends round. Sometimes it could be otherwise. Now, what's the deal with the? Could you go to a store and you see an egg which one end is round, one end is pointy? Could you buy and eat it? So the halacha is like this. I don't want to get so much into this, but it's relevant for our discussion. The halacha is that we're not soymech on simonim of the eggs. We're only soymech on simonim of the eggs if a non-Jew says this comes from you don't know what bird it came from. He's just selling you eggs. He says this comes from a chicken. He says, oh, it comes from a chicken. So you look at it, and it looks like one end is round and one end is pointy. So then you'll ladder be soymach on the non-Jew based on the fact that it has the simon. Okay, if it doesn't have a simon tummy, you're not allowed to buy it. So it's not a defining factor in itself, but it's something we rely on. We don't have to ask the non-Jew today. You can walk into the store and you buy, say, a crate of eggs. It's chicken, comes from chicken farms. It says all over the eggs. Counter, its assumption is that it's kosher, and since it's motzi today, it's all over today. Chicken eggs are motzi, something which is very common and a normal thing. So then, if you see the simon, you're allowed to eat it. Okay. If you find an egg which is not motzi and not common, then you have to actually find out where it comes from. You can't just rely on the simon. Okay. That's for the eggs. But you have to know that in the same bird, sometimes you can have the same bird, the same type of bird, sort of. You could have sometimes, like we'll see later in ducks, there are eggs which are round, and there are eggs which are one side is round, one side is pointy. And this was a cause of confusion in many of the tshuvas and everything we'll see later. So it's not something which is a standard, clear, straight out, but that's the halacha. That's what Ramah says. Dafka beitzim ashchichim, beitanagom kiyotzimam, you could rely on the simon, but something which is not, it's not common bird, you can't rely on the simon that one side is round, one side is pointy. You need to dig deeper. Okay. Now we're going to go back to the simone tyrus. So we have 4 simonim of tyrus again, right? So we have the crop, and we have that you peel the gizzard, it's peeled with the hand, and you have the extra finger, and you have the fact that it's tyrus.
Well, not tyrus actually.
It's not tyrus, yeah. So now the question is, if you go through the Rishonim here, it's very unclear how many criteria you need and what could we rely on actually. Because again, there were 20. All we know in the Torah is that there are 24 birds that are not kosher. That's the fact. Do these not kosher birds? Some of them have simonim that are tar. Some of them have 2 simonim that are tar. So the question is, if I see a bird that has something that looks like it's kosher, is that enough to rely on? So the main 2 shittas that we're going to discuss is shittas Rashi and the shittas of Rabbi Mordechai Bar Yosef. Rashi held, it's all dependent on the words of the Gemara and the Girsa, and it's a complicated sugya, so I'm going to skip that all and just get to what Rashi says. Rashi says it's very possible that in the 24 birds that are not kosher, and maybe up to 19 of them, they could have 3 simonim of kashrus. They could have a zefek, they could have a kurkab niklov, they could have even an etzbi yisayla. It's possible that they have all the simonim of kosher birds, but it's still a not kosher bird. Now here's the quasi question what Rashi means, but the simple meaning of Rashi is that it could be its doirus. It could be it actually, even though it has all the simonim of kashrus, it could be it actually goes and attacks its prey. Okay? It's possible. That's what Rashi holds. And therefore Rashi says, even though all the not kosher birds are doirus, but the simonim, the 3 simonim of kashrus, maybe they have, so there's only one way to really know it's kosher, and that's to know that it's not doirus, that it doesn't go and attack its prey. That's one point of Rashi. And then Rashi says that, and he brings this in, the Gemara has a case of a tarnagol va'agam, a tarnagol, 2 types of chickens, and one is kosher, maybe one's not kosher, this whole thing. So Rashi says that you have to have a Messiah, you have to know of a Messiah that this bird is kosher in order to rely on it, because even if it has a simoni kashrus, maybe even though you think it's not doirus, but if you go to a different country, it is going to be doirus, or if you watch it, it's possible that maybe it is, or a similar bird is, and you're confusing 2 birds with each other because they're very closely related, and therefore you can't eat a bird unless we have a Messiah, unless we know from generation to generation that this bird is a kosher bird. That's where Rashi comes in. Now, that's Rashi Shita. There are a lot of different Rishonim here, but the one we're going to focus on is Rabbi Mordechai Bar Yosef, which the Ramban brings down. And he says like this. He says that it's impossible. If a bird has all 3 simonim of Tyra, it's kosher. If it has all 3 simonim, the zefek and the etzba and the kurkavan, it's a kosher bird. He says, from the 20 birds, it says, they all have only one siman of Taira. It could be different ones, but each bird of the non-kosher birds, they could have one of the simanim of Taira, but the rest are not simanim are not kosher. And then the Paris and Nazniya, the Oiriv and the person and the Nazniya, some of them have 2 simanim of Taira, but to have 3 simanim of Taira is impossible. So according to that, if you have oif that even has 2 simanim and you know it's not an oiriv and it's not that, it could be it's kosher. So according to the Rabbi Moshe Bar Yosef, if you find for sure 3 simanim of Taira in a bird, and possibly even 2, if you know this bird is not a raven or something like that, then it could be you could rely on it's kosher bird. That's what Moshe Bar Yosef. The Ramban goes out of his way, and he says that he checked out all the birds. So it's impossible. He went and researched all the birds, and he knows that it's impossible. They don't have, the not kosher birds do not have 3 simanim of Taira. It's impossible to say like Rashi, and he's very strong about it. The Rambam, the Razar, the Itter, the Ram, the Sefer Yereim, the Rashba, the Ritter, the Sefer Chinuch, Magmisha, Mashal, they all say that this is the sheet of Moshe Rabbeinu, who Rav Hamuvik Shalonu, and that's how it's Seimach, and that's the halacha, and they're very firm about it, that if it has all 3 simanim of kashrut, it's kosher. That's the sheet of Moshe Bar Yitzchak. Very nice. How do we pass it? Bottom line is, the Shulchan Aruch says like this. The Shulchan Aruch says like Rashi. Shulchan Aruch says like Rashi. Now, even if they said Shulchan Aruch, we're going to ask how you pass it. But the Shulchan Aruch says like Rashi. It says here, Kol Mishu Baki, whoever's a Baki in the Minim and the names is allowed to eat any oif that's not from the not kosher ones. Okay, then he goes out. For oif tahar nechel b'mesayus. What is that? It's nechel if you have a mesayus, you can eat the oif. What is that? He says, V'hushi yadav poshet ba'oisei makam shazar. It has to be poshet, everybody. Check it, this is poshet, this is tar. V'nem and side loy ma'oif zeh hitali rebbe. Outside, we're going to get into how we develop a mesayus later, but he says it's been mesayus. And then he says like this. It's a hard lashon to read the Shulchan Aruch, and it leaves room for confusion. That's what is a Darchei Tshuva on it. It's a hard lashon. He says like this. He says, he brings down the 3 simanim, and he says, and if you know it's not doiris, and it has 3 simanim, he goes to what they are, and then he says like, and then it's kosher, and then he says again, and even though it has 3 simanim, we still don't eat it, because maybe it's doiris, unless you have a mesayus. So he sort of starts saying that it's kosher. If you know it's not doiris and has 3 simanim, you can eat it. And then he ends off, well, we still don't eat it unless you have a mesayus. It's hard to read a little bit.
He's talking theoretical, and then he's talking practical.
Could be, yeah. Could be, it's possible, yeah. That's how the Shach seems to learn. The Shach seems to learn that at the end of the day, the Mechaber is saying that you need a mesayus, and this is Shitas Rashi. It's not enough to rely on the simanim. Simanim is not the end of the day. That's Rashi. Now, before we go further, we're going to go into one more halacha, which is relevant for our discussion. Then we're going to go into what happened over the history over here. So there's one more halacha here. There's halacha gimel. Yeshonim. This is what we call the Kabbalah's Razah. This is the Kabbalah from Rabbi Zechariah Halevi, the Balamor, and it's brought out in Shulchan Aruch. Yeshonim shekol oif shechatumei rochav. Any bird that's beak is wide, i.e. like a duck, beak is wide. Bekaf ragla rochava, its feet are wide, bottom of the feet. Kshalav is like a duck. Biyadua, we know it's not doiris. These kind of birds aren't doiris. They don't have the feet to be doiris, and they don't have the beak to be doiris. They don't do that. It's a wide beak and a wide feet. That's Kabbalah. So these birds are kosher. It's mutter to eat if it has 3 simanim begufay. It's mutter. Now, on a sidebar, this is very difficult because a duck does not have 3 simanim. It doesn't have a zefek. So the first we'll talk about it. What does it mean it has 3 simanim? Okay, but that's what the Shulchan Aruch says. It's Kabbalah's Razah. That's a duck or something that has a wide beak and that has feet that are wide. It can't be doris. It got to be kosher. The Ramah says on that, that you can't be saimach on this, you can't rely on this, even on this, and you have to have a mesayus. That's the Ramah, even on the duck. We'll come back to it. That's the setup here. So the first discussion we're going to discuss, we'll come back to the ducks. We're going to start with we'll come back to the Masoris part also later. We'll start with the question that came up. There was something called a korbitzer. That's what it was called. It was called a korbitzer hun, a hen. Korbitzer hen. Had a lot of names actually. This fellow who researched it said he couldn't actually get an exact picture of what it was. It was about 150 years in the Tofresh Chaf that this issue spread across Europe. And all the Poskim and Chuvas discussed it. It had a name, English hen or Amerikanische hen or from Chinese hen. Bekitzer, they couldn't figure out where it came from. In Galicia it was called a korbitzer hen, or a Greek hen. So it had a lot of different names. And it's even a question if all the Chuvas are talking about the same hen. Imagine. It's the different places to have different looks. That adds to the confusion. You see, the two main questions we have to always know is what the halacha is and what the metzias is. And sometimes it's harder to figure out the metzias than to figure out the halacha, as you'll see. What happened is like this. The question was like this. These hens were different as the rest of the chickens or hens were. They were bigger, maybe, different in size. The sound it made was a little different. And sometimes the feathers were maybe more or longer, different size feathers. So they claim, those that claimed it was kosher claim, so what was the question? There's two questions. One question is, okay, but it's a hen, so it's a little bit different. So one question that you have to know is, how much different does it have to be? And this question comes on and over again. How much different is it? It's the same stock, and it's just a little different. How much different does it have to be that requires a new Messiah? That we know we ate a specific one. Or could we rely, we ate all hens, so maybe this is included. So that's one question. How different does it have to be in order? That's a question of Metzias, and it's a question of halacha. Well, there's only a little different. Well, there's a little more different. You know, it starts stretching, and the question is, at what point do you say it needs its own Messiah? Now, there was such a, kobritza hen in Eretz Yisrael. That was, everybody knew it was kosher, and they always ate it. And the question is, the one in Europe, was that the same? Was it a little different? How different was it? That's the first question. So, Rabbi Yosef Shalom Notzenson, the Shalom Meshiv, has 3 or 4 chuvas on this issue. And he comes out that's 100% mutter, to the point that he finally says, Vani me'ed lochem, that I am myself eat it, meshufri de shufri. It's 100% kosher, I eat it 100%. Why was he matter to eat? So his main angle of being matter the korbitza hen was because he held, me'ikra din, Roy Rishonim hold not like Rashi. And Roy Rishonim hold like Rav Moshe Bar Yosef, the Rambi, that holds that it has all this simanim Torah, and we know it's not Doris. They know it's not Doris. They know this hen. So there's nothing to discuss. It's kosher. We don't have to have a Messiah specifically on it. That's what he held me'ikra alocha. You're going to tell me that Lamaisa, the Shulchan Aruch brings the Rashi Shita? Okay, it's not so different from the other hens. But his main, thrust is that he held that that it's kosher anyways. The other, and he was very strong about that. But you want to tell me that it's you need a Messiah, so man, it's good enough. We have a Messiah on all the other hens. That's how he went. He was a big Paisik in Europe. It was But the other Paiskim, the Rabbi Chaim, was from Matirim, and they were soymech on Eidos of 2 Talmidei Chacham that went to Eretz Yisrael, that lived in Sons, and they went to Eretz Yisrael to check it out. And they come back and they said, Eidos, that it's the same hen, it's exactly, and therefore it's kosher. Now the interesting thing is, the same people, this usually happens, the same people that went and said Eidos that it's kosher, later had second thoughts and said, well, maybe it's not exactly the same. The people that said that, well, it's not the same, and shall look, did that have this mark on it? Was it like this? Oh, you're right, maybe it was different. And then when they showed him again, they said, no, maybe it's the same. So the confusion with the Eidos was not so So, to the point that they try to actually bring back one of the hens from Eretz Yisrael to try to show if it was the same. That didn't work either. This machlokes stretched out for a while. Those that weren't maturit is Tuv Tam Vadas, the Shal Shus Beis Yitzchak, Rabbi Shmelkes. They weren't maturit. The Aruch LaNer wasn't maturit. Now they say the other ones wanted the Aruch LaNer was in Germany, and they said, well, the ones he had were taka different, were very different from the regular hen. So again, you're talking from in Europe, we're spread out different countries. And it could be that type of hen changed in the different places. So it's very hard to get a clear picture of if it was kosher or not. So that was a question of that kind. Now,
Rabbi Scheiner?
yeah,
What time period was this?
this is about 150 years ago. Okay?
Like 1870s?
Yeah.
1860s?
No, like the early 1900s. The early 1900s. So now, to the point that there was a Treri that was a Talmud from Baal Levushi Asrad. The Levushi Asrad is one of the Magim on the Shulchan Aruch. And he said from his Rebbe, the Levushi Asrad, that there's a Messiah all the way back to the Beis Yosef that this hen is kosher. So what came out at the end of the day? At the end of the day, there was a large kuntras written that the hen is kosher, and there was a large kuntras written from someone else that it's not kosher. And today we don't really know what it is, so it's not so relevant that question.
Could it be the turkey?
No.
No, can't be.
No, it's not. This is not the turkey. This is not the turkey. It's a different one. Now, okay. Now we'll get closer to turkey. We're going to go to the ducks. The ducks is a very sore subject over here. There's something called. We'll start from the beginning. There's a tshuva from the Divrei Chaim. That's not from the Tzemach Tzedek. This is not the Lubavitcher. This is the Tzemach Tzedek Hakadman, right? It's actually brought down in the gun over here. So the Tzemach Tzedek Hakadman put out his tshuva over here. Very interesting tshuva. What happened was like this. Ducks, we said, we have the Kabbalah Sarazah that has a wide beak and it has a wide thing. It's kosher, but nonetheless, the Ramah says it has to have a Messiah anyways. Even though we have a Kabbalah that's kosher, it has to have a Messiah. So the Tzemach Tzedek, Rav Menachem Mendel, so he Kruchmal. So he was the Rav in Nikolsburg. So when he came to Nikolsburg, he saw that people were buying these wild ducks. They're wild ducks. There's a name for it. Maybe Mallory ducks. Mallory ducks. Yeah. So it's a wild ducks, and they were eating them. So so he says the slight difference is the necks are a little longer and the feet are a little longer. And he came to Nikolsburg, and everybody's eating the ducks. He says he never saw anyone eat these ducks before in his life. He couldn't believe it. So he says he remembered when he was young that his father was moicha that they're not allowed to buy the eggs of these ducks because you might not be able to you can't buy duck eggs because you might not, and this is true, you can't buy duck eggs because you might not be sure what kind of duck it comes from. You don't know what kind of duck it came from. There are some ducks that are kosher and they're not kosher. So remember, there's such a thing. There's some ducks that are kosher, some ducks that are not kosher. So he looked into it. So he says like this. He wanted to know, do they have a Messiah to eat it? First question. Is there a Messiah in the city of Nikolsburg to eat wild ducks? So they couldn't give him a clear answer where it came from. Okay, he's very marach on it, but he says like this. He says, he looked into it and he found out that it's clear that there are some that are not kosher. That's clear. There are some that have simonim in the eggs, at least, that are not kosher. And he says that this, he brings down the Ramah, So he says, even though we have a Kabbalah's Razah that they're mutter, but he brings down the Ramah that says you have to have a Messiris. And since there are places that definitely had a Messiris that it wasn't kosher, he says, you can't rely on it unless you have a clear Messiris. It's kosher, no good. So he asked it. Then he says, 10 years later came someone that was from Kal Kadisha Chel. There was, and he says, that you don't eat from the eggs of the wild ducks, because you can tell that some of them are not round and pointy on one side. So he says, you see clearly that there are those that tell that the wild ducks are not kosher. Now, there was a Chacham, Rav Shmuel from Vilna, that he had a raya that has to be its kosher. It has to be that the wild ducks are kosher. What's his raya? Very interesting raya. For the Lamdanim over here, he says at the end. It says in Bar Kama like this, that Ovaz v'Avaz Bar, the duck and the wild duck, are climbs episode. The two different minim, and they're climb one if you're
Crossbreed. Yeah.
What? Crossbreed them, it's climb. You can't do that. So it's considered two different minim. Now, the Gemara asks, why is it? The Gemara tries to explain why it was a long neck, a short neck. The Gemara tries to explain why they consider two different minim. Now we have a rule: if you have a kosher bird and a not kosher bird, it's for sure climbs episode. That's for sure crossbreeding. So he said it has to be they're both kosher, because if one would be kosher, one would be not kosher, so then the Gemara wouldn't have a shiloh if it's climb. So the Mefarshim will go to town. If it is a raya, it's not a raya, but that was his raya. So he likes the raya, he liked it very much. But he says, in his words, "Hine divi pi chacham chen lahalacha." That is kosher. It's a big raya. It's kosher. Avaloi lemaisa, but you can't rely on it lemaisa. The ula yeshchilik bein avazes abar ve'in kol hashem. There's different kinds. There are different kinds of wild ducks, and they're not all the same. And we only eat according to our Messiahs. Mikoshkein, according to what I heard, that in Chelm there are those wild birds that have simon tum on it. There's no question you can't eat it without a Messiahs. So that's how he comes out. The crazier place, you got a whole country is against this, saying that it's mutter, the wild ducks. Okay, but the halacha l'maisa on the wild ducks part is that we don't eat wild ducks. Now that's accepted. B'chol tus Yisrael, wild ducks we don't eat, and this sets the stage for the next big issue that came up: the Muscovy ducks.
No, hang on. So the ducks that we do eat are the ones that we've known for like generations.
Yeah.
The ducks that we eat are domesticated mallard ducks.
Yeah.
So those the mallard ducks are the wild ducks. I'm just saying.
The ones we eat are domesticated ducks are different. Now, I'm just running out of time, so we're going to have to speed up a little bit here. A fascinating point to the history here came. There's the Muscovy ducks. Now, there was a fellow. This fellow's name was Rabbi Yisachar Doiv. Rabbi Yisachar Doiv. Ilovoy. Okay, he was a rabbi. He learned in Pressburg Yeshiva, learned by the Chassam Sofer, who was a big guy, and he got chased out of his town because he used to fight the reforms, and they made him in big trouble. He was chased out of the country, so he came to the New World, and he became the rabbi of New Orleans. This is before the flood. So he was the rabbi of New Orleans, and he goes to New Orleans, and this is his words here. It's actually a very fascinating tshuva. So he writes that he comes to New Orleans, and he says this is America in the old days. This is also about the early 1900s. Try the early 1900s. So what happened was like this. He says that it's a little earlier, actually. It's early 1800s. So he says like this. He says that such wonderful people live here in New Orleans, in America. That most of them are Amei Aretz, but they're all considered Chachamim and Levonim in their eyes, even though they don't know a word of Torah. Kaham Kekayin, the nation is the same as the leaders. The leaders are those that have good voices, that can be Chazonim. That's what he writes here. And the Machaberes Hashem begroinim v'loy b'lvavam, with their voices and not in their hearts. They don't know anything. So he says like this. the Masada Gitim and Kadushim, and they pat the Yevomis from Yibum and the Mat Ragunis. They haven't got a clue what's going on. So he came into this city here, and he became the Rav, and he said he made him a peicha. The mamish people kashed the kitchens, we did everything, and people were willing to hear. So what happened? So he goes down, and actually it's one of his good bala. It always happens. You have your good balabas that supports you and behind you, and he comes to his house. Earlier, he said people closed their house and their works on Shabbos. They really started following. And he came to eat in one of the he sees they're eating these ducks. He never saw such a duck before. They're called Muscovy ducks. He never saw this in all the countries he was in. We started to look at where this come from. And they said the rabbi before him, who was a Machal Shabbos, that's what he did. So the kids, he wanted to know if this ducks are kosher or not. So now you see from the shilas that there's different. There must have been different types of Muscovy ducks, and all the shilas, they're always a little change. But he sent the shilah to Rav Shamshon Rafal Hirsch. He sent the shilah to Rav Shamshon Rafal Hirsch, and Rav Shamshon Rafal Hirsch, it seems, got the point that some of these ducks have round eggs. And he writes, look, the way you describe the duck, it's very different. You can't eat it. You can't eat it, especially since some of them have a simon tumor and have it's awesome. He sent a shilah to Rab Nosson HaKohen Adler of Rav London at the time. And Rav London said, in London, we don't eat this bird. They have it there. The Muscovy ducks, they don't eat it. So there's what a Dasa Eisrim. And we'll see more about this in a moment. Now, later, some 25 years later, came in a fellow. His name was Rabbi Yosef Aaron Turin, okay? And he moved to Argentina. Now, in Argentina, this is where these ducks grew. And he said this bird's 100% kosher. He wrote a whole sefer. I printed out about 20 pages of it. It's a fascinating thing going on here. He wrote Zichron Yosef. He came to Argentina and he found these ducks. And he looked into it and he said, there's no shiloh, these things are 100% kosher. And some of the shilos were like this. I'm just out of time here. But some of the shilos were like this. He said that there was he said that it's not different enough. It's not different enough than the other ducks just because it has a little red in the beak and it grew like a red lump by its neck. Just because it's a little different, that's not enough to make it not kosher. And he sent the shilah to different rabbanim around the world. Now, one of the people he sent the shilah was to Reb Chaim Soloveitchik. It's fascinating the way he says over the shilah. He says it's well known Reb Chaim Soloveitchik didn't paskin shilas. He had his Av Bezim, who was Reb Avram at the time. He paskin the shilas, but he wouldn't paskin unless Reb Chaim was sitting there, and Reb Chaim would, he'd figure out from him whether the elder was going to know it. So he sent the shilah there. He had a big machlokes with someone who lived in Santa Fe nearby, and they were arguing whether this bird is kosher or not. And those that said it's not kosher claimed that this bird was doiras mechayim. It ate live birds. It ate live birds. So they sent the shiloh to Reb Chaim, and the way they sent the shiloh was that it eats live birds. So they asked him, and it's live birds. It's doiras mechayim. They didn't want to be matered. So he wrote back. He says, this is a joke. It doesn't eat live birds. It eats small birds. And he says, even Tarnagoyim eat rats. Eat small birds. It says, one of them is Doris Mechayim. So he says, he didn't learn the Rashash. The Rashash on the Gemara. The Rashash on the Gemara says that Doris Mechayim means that you don't wait till it dies. That means when you Doris it, when they attack it, and they sort of jump on it, they eat it before it dies. But to snatch it with its mouth without attacking it, that's not included. To just gobble. Every bird eats fish. Every bird eats shrotzim. They eat these things. These ducks, they all eat it. And there's no question it's kosher. It's only when you have to eat a larger one and you have to attack it. And after you attack it, you have to wait till it dies. And you don't wait till it dies. That's called nadachum mechayim. So that was one point of the machlokes. So he sent it back to Reb Chaim, and Reb Chaim the Dayan waited till Chaim comes, and he didn't want to answer it because he says he doesn't know who to believe what's going on here. He says this, he says that, he didn't answer. So they sent the Shail to Shmuel Misalant, back to Eretz Yisrael. They sent to Eretz Yisrael to Shmuel Salanta's Bezdin. And initially they were Materit. They were Materit initially. And then the Oisrim sent back, and Shmuel wasn't well, so we deferred it to Reb Chaim Berlin. And they told Reb Chaim Berlin that it lives with snakes, this thing, and he didn't want to get involved in the Shaila. The kids just went on and on. And at the end of the day, I'm just going to get a time here. So at the end of the day, there was another issue here. That we said the kurkuvan is niklov has to be biyad and not pesakim. So the Oisim said, no, you can't peel the kurkuvan with the hand. You have to use a sakin to peel the kurkuvan. So he says, this Rabbi Yosef Turin, he says, what are you talking about? You never learned Prima Godim. The Prima Godim on the Shulchan Aruch says clearly that a duck, all the kurkuvans, you need a knife to peel it. The Gemara says it's niklov biyad. You're right. It's nishtana teva, whatever the pshat is. But we know all the ducks. He says you never saw a shaila in your life. You never had a shaila. All the shailas are in the kurkuvan. Today we don't get shailas like this, but in those days they had shailas in the kurkuvan. The things in there, it's a treifus or not. You never saw a duck kurkuvan. They're all like that. What are you talking about? So finally he ends up. He wrote a shira. There's a shira for all the animals. So at the end, after it was clarified in their view that it was kosher, they wrote a shira that the Muscovy duck sings that it's a kosher animal. But what's the end of the story? The end of the story is on that bird. Rabbi Tzvi Pesach Frank writes that even though they were matir in Rishalayim, this is an important point. He says the matir they were matir in Rishalayim, but the camps that don't eat it, I wouldn't encourage eating it based on that psak. So we sort of left the door open. It's not so clear what comes out halacha l'maisa. I'm out of time, so I just want to end up with the turkeys. We started with turkeys. What's the deal with the turkeys? So the end of the day is like this: that how do we verify the Messiahs? And this is involved in the tshuvas here. I'm way over time, he says. I'm way over time. How do we verify Messiahs? So the issue of Messiah is like this. This is very brief. I can't go in Baruch because I'm out of time. The issue is like this. If we have a country that eats it, and another country doesn't eat it, it could be for various reasons. It didn't have it, or they b'tafka don't want to eat it. So there's a machlokes how to learn. The Machaber learns that the country that doesn't eat it is not allowed to eat it. The country that eats it is allowed to eat it. He brings a machlokes and he paskins that you're not allowed to eat it. The Shach says, not so simple. He says if the only reason they're not eating it because they don't have it, otherwise they would have eaten and they could rely on the Messiah, but if they're eating it because they have any chashash, why they're not eating, they can't. And this leaves the door open to what's called having chashash versus not having chashash. And the shaila is, could you rely on a single person? So the Prima Godim brings us a lashon of the Maril. It's a lashon of the Maril in lashon Maril that which is a very strong lashon. He writes that to bring a Messiah Chadash al Oif Nochri that you don't recognize, he says it has to be that it was a minute pasha to eat it in that country. Everybody eats it today in that country. Or it's Mekumo Pionum Godel the Kadai Lismach al Adusai the Vadi Dayak Shapi v'Chazi Mandam Asad Oleh Havel Inish the Alma or the Asad Sharoi Shalom Inish. He said, today a small little difference can make a difference. This is the Lashon Maril. So he says, it's hard to rely on. And to find such a person, that's a Talmud, it's not found today. So the Maril says, there's no such thing as having a Messiah today from a single guy. That's the Maril, and the Prima Godim brings down the halacha. So the only way to really have a Messiah is if something was clearly eaten in a specific country, and it's eaten hayom in a specific country. And you want to take it over to another place, and you have a guy that's there, and so there are a lot of truths that I can't get into it. But the bottom line, what happened with the turkey is like this. What happened with the turkey is that there's also a question, where did the turkey come from? It's called haidu, and haidu comes from India. So some claim it comes from India, others say it doesn't come from India. Some say there's a Messiah, a clear Messiah comes from Eretz Yisrael. Some say there's no Messiah comes from Eretz Yisrael. So the bottom line is the Shalom Meshav, not Shalom Meshav, the Netziv. The Meshav Davis says an interesting thing, and this is how we go halacha, because most people in the world eat turkey, 90% of people in the world eat turkey.